Okay, I've picked up a new bike to play with. So this is the Yamaha XSR155. Been looking forward to this one. This is Yamaha's entry into what is now a fairly popular category of entry-level bikes in Asia with this kind of retro modern styling. So this is the Yamaha 155, and then this sort of competes with the Honda CB150 and the Kawasaki W175, sort of in the same category. They're all roughly around 3,000 US dollars, 3,500 US dollars, and they're all roughly around, sort of 150 to 175 cc engine size. So let's just take a look at this. This is a brand new bike. This bike actually only came out last year. In terms of the category that it's in, I think this is one of the best looking bikes in this category of the entry level 150 to 175 cc class. It's really nicely proportioned. I like this blacked out colorway. It does come in a bunch of other colorways as well. It's just a very attractive looking bike. Definitely, I mean, it's a bit more modern looking than the 175 from Kawasaki, which is, they've gone with a much more retro kind of vibe. And it's a little bit more retro looking than the Honda CB150. So it's sort of an in-between of those two, which I think looks fantastic. And just in terms of first impressions, I haven't ridden this bike yet, by the way, so I'm about to for the first time. But just in terms of first impressions, it really feels like you get quite a lot of bike for the money. I've ridden a 175 Kawasaki. Haven't been on a CB150, the new modern retro one. But if I compare this to the Kawasaki, it really feels like you get quite a lot of bike for your money, considering that they're at a very similar price point. You've got LEDs, I believe LEDs all round. Very tidy rear end, which I like. The switch gear looks really high quality. You've got this nice digital dash as well, which is made in sort of a round retro style. And the engine itself, I think, is a bit more interesting than its competitors. So this is a 155cc liquid cooled. It's got this little radiator here, as you can see. Liquid cooled, obviously single cylinder, with a 6-speed transmission. So that's sort of unusual. You generally don't get 6-speed gearboxes in bikes of this kind of small engine size. So I'm really curious to ride this one just to see if that 6-speed is really sort of practical or not for the type of riding that you do in Bali. As I said, I think this is a fantastic looking bike, and it's really only when you start sort of inspecting it up close that you start to see where they've obviously cut corners in terms of costs. So this tank, it's not metal, that's plastic. So that's a plastic cover on, I presume the actual tank is underneath. There's a bash plate down here, which is made of plastic rather than any kind of metal. And in general, although these bikes sort of look really nicely proportionate when they're in a video, they are all of small displacements, so they are quite small bikes actually when you hop on them. So although this looks like quite a substantial machine in the video, actually when you sit on it, it feels quite small. But yeah, I think that's all we'll say for now. Really pleased with this. I've got this for a month. So now it's time to stick on the GoPro and take it out for a ride. Okay, let's go. That was a nice, decisive click into first gear. Always like that. So straight away you can feel that the gearbox on this is very high quality. Really nice, decisive clicks into gear. Also partly because it's a new bike. Yeah, it seems to have a decent amount of power for a little 155. Definitely feels a bit more peppy than the only other thing I can directly compare it to would be the Kawasaki W175, which I don't think is quite a fair comparison in terms of engine power, because obviously that's got a fair amount more capacity. But if I compare it to a Honda CRF150L, then the CRF feels quite breathless basically at all times. You can wring its neck all you want in first and second gear and it won't do anything, the CRF150. This, however, does feel like it's got a little bit more pep to it, which is nice. Even though it's a 155cc, I guess they've tuned it such that this actually puts out well, for a start, it's a different engine than the Honda that I'm comparing it to. So this is liquid cooled, 6 gears, and this actually puts out 19 brake horsepower, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, I know, but if you compare it to other bikes in its class, then that's not a tiny amount. Usually around sort of 150cc, you would expect maybe kind of 15 brake horsepower on a good day, but this has 19.3, I believe. So you've got a bit of extra power there. Apparently the top speed on this is 130 something kph, which again, is not by any means very fast, but it's certainly faster than bikes that are in the same sort of category. So again, if I compare it to the Honda CRF150L, which I've ridden a lot, that bike tops out at around, you can probably get it up to 80 kph, and then after that it just runs out of breath. So apparently this one can go up to 130. I'm not sure if I'll actually get the chance to take it up to that speed on any of the roads I'm going to do in this review. You can see the kind of traffic that I'm in right now. So I might have to take it at their word that it can get up to that speed. What is going on today? Just lots of I like the sound of this engine as well. It's this is a completely stock bike, so this has not been modified in any way. So they haven't put a obnoxious exhaust or anything like that on this bike. So the sound that I'm hearing, well, and the sound never comes through very well on the microphone anyway, but the sound that I'm hearing is purely just the engine noise. There's no there's no amplified exhaust notes or anything like that. And the engine itself sounds good. It's like a oh shit, in neutral. Sounds good. Definitely sounds different to a regular sort of air-cooled 150. So this road we might be able to get up to some speed, but not 130. A bit too dangerous for that. It curves around a lot. So one of the things I said in my early intro was that I was wondering if I'd ever actually get up to 6th gear. So now I kind of get it. I'm in 6th gear now at 72. But yeah, again, if I compare it to the Honda CRF150, when you're riding that around and you get up to, well, say this speed, we're at 65, 70, you're already in 5th gear, and it will be revving quite high. So normally around that time is when I try and reach for that imaginary 6th gear that doesn't exist. And then I'm left thinking, oh crap, I'm already in my top gear. So I guess, with this bike, you've just got that. It's geared in such a way that you've still got that extra gear to reach for. But it does mean that obviously it's geared quite low, so you are flicking up and down all the time. Hasn't really bothered me yet, but we'll see. At 70 you can already feel there's decent amount of vibration in the handlebars, which you don't really get with the other bikes that I've ridden in this class. The riding position is I thought it was going to be more upright, but actually I'm having to lean quite far forward. Not aggressively like on a cafe racer, but I can definitely feel, you know, a slight pressure in my wrists, which wasn't expecting. I thought this was going to be more of a natural upright riding position. But again, it's just it's a personal preference thing as well, because I just don't particularly like the cafe racer style of you know, riding position. So might just be my personal preference is you know, is forming this bias. I much prefer, you know, a bolt upright riding position. So maybe if I put a couple of, you know, bar raisers on this, might actually be okay. But again, I think I'm nitpicking. If you put the bike in context and take into account that this brand new is about $3,500 US, and for that, you know, you could buy you know, a brand new maxi scooter, you could buy a brand new Kawasaki W175. So, you know, comparing it to what else you can buy in its class, it's actually, I think it's an amazing deal. You know, the brakes are awesome. The fit and finish is really good. This is a much more, I would say, capable engine than the other bikes in its class. And it looks really awesome. I mean, I think out of all the bikes that I've ridden on this trip so far in Bali, this is the nicest looking one. And you know, like other bikes in this class, they're really meant to be a canvas for you to start modifying and making your own. So if you look at it as a blank canvas as well, I think, you know, this is an amazing blank canvas to have. So what am I in fifth gear, and it can still pull. It's not bad actually. Yeah, I'm definitely quite impressed with this little 155 engine. So even in fifth gear, you know, with a twist of the throttle, okay, it's not ripping my arms off like, you know, a proper you know, 650 sport bike would if you're in fifth gear, but I can still overtake when I'm in fifth gear, so that's good. No need to change down a gear or anything like that. I do miss the convenience of the scooter though, not the gearing. I think the gearing is, you know, whether it's a manual transmission or an automatic transmission, I think you just muscle memory just kicks in, and you're not really aware of, you know, the fact that you're shifting up and down gears. That's just turned into a muscle memory thing really. But I miss the convenience of having luggage space. That was really nice. And I also miss being able to lock my helmet to the bike. So the Honda ADV that I was on previously, in my previous video, had a little hook under the seat, So you could hook your helmet strap on the hook, close the seat, and then sort of dangle the helmet outside the bike, and it would be pretty safe. Or if your helmet's small enough, you could just stash it inside the in the seat. So the two ways to store the helmet on a scooter. Don't really know what I'm going to do with my helmet. I'm going to have to go back to sort of carrying it around with me, which you know, after a month of being able to just lock it to my bike, that's going to be annoying. But that's not a slight against this bike in any way. It's just a small little feature that I wish more manufacturers would include on motorcycles, but it's definitely not, I wouldn't say it's that common. One complaint that I've heard from people with this bike, and I get it now, is that the rear brake is in a weird position. Some bikes, you know, the rear brake is in a natural position, and you just sort of have to pivot your foot slightly, and then you can access it. This one, it just feels too high up, so you have to raise your foot off the peg, if you know what I mean. Just a little nitpick. I guess it's easily fixed. I know what we'll do. Let's take this over to the Canggu shortcut. I haven't seen how this bike performs yet on a sort of more uneven road surface. I'm always so curious when I see people running around with their surfboards, because all the beaches are closed, so obviously they know where there's some sort of secret entrance where you can actually get in and not only get in but go surfing without someone telling you off. Right, so this is the Canggu shortcut. And this is the you know, the bad road that people in this area take day in, day out. It's you know, this sort of brick road that a lot of the bricks are uneven, missing, broken, you name it. Oh, it's not comfortable. I don't think I'm going to be taking this very often. It's makes me miss my Honda CRF. I mean, I don't know what I shouldn't expect too much. This bike is not really meant for these kind of roads. You know, it's not an off-road bike or a dual sport bike. It's I don't know what you class it as. It's a commuter. It's a sexy black little commuter that you know, you're supposed to take to work and back. Unfortunately, going to work and back in Bali often means going on roads like this. So yeah, this is not comfortable. It's not quite as bad as the Vespa, but it's bumpy for sure. I think I will keep my trips to along this road to the bare minimum. You can hear my voice is shaking around. Whereas if you do that road on a dual sport, like a CRF or a Kawasaki KLX, you barely notice anything. It's amazing. So actually, I just wish that Honda would release a CRF somewhere in between their 150 and 250. The 250 I think is a bit expensive for what it is. It's almost double the price of a 150. I like tall bikes where I can sit upright, so maybe I could do that on the Kawasaki. God damn, this horn is so loud, I love it. Maybe I could modify the Kawasaki 175 to be a bit taller, I don't know, and then also to improve the riding position for me, maybe, you know, raise the handlebars a bit. Could do. Anyway, enough talking about other bikes. Let's wrap up this bike review. So, in summary, what am I going to say? I think value for money wise, this is an amazing bike. I think if you're comparing it to other bikes at this price point, around this price point, I feel like this is the, you know, best value for money. The engine really have no faults. It feels capable. Definitely doesn't feel like a 155. You know, being able to overtake in fifth gear, that's pretty it's pretty awesome for a little bike like this. Okay, there's a little bit of vibration, nothing too drastic though. Switch gear is all really high quality. The horn is nice and loud. Transmission is really nice and definitive. I like that. So yeah, mechanically I love this bike. Riding position I'm not a massive fan of, but you know, you can modify that, you can change that to your liking. And the rear brake is just the brakes themselves are fantastic. They're really confidence inspiring brakes, which I guess is part of the value for money factor. I just feel like you're getting a lot of bike for your money. But the rear brake lever itself is just in a weird position. And also I've caught my reflection a couple of times in, you know, passing shop windows or whatever, and I hope this doesn't sound too poncy or whatever, but you do look cool on this bike. It's a cool looking, blacked out, sort of, you know, modern retro vibe. It looks great. If I was, you know, choosing between this and a Kawasaki W175, I'm not sure actually. Really difficult choice. Kawasaki's cheaper, so you'd be able to put some of the money that you saved into modifications. So maybe the Kawasaki is, you know, the better buy in that regard. Slightly more powerful engine as well. I'd have to see actually. I think after this I'm going to grab a Kawasaki as my next bike, so I can do a back-to-back comparison, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm loving this.